V'zeu shehizru hakosav lo sasuach ve'levavchem achrei einechem. Blunge nicht noch sei. Not to get verblunged after the eyes. Lo sasuach ve'levavchem. Not to be led away, to be led by the eyes. Alt you could set oived. Like an animal that gets verblunged, that gets lost. When a person lives a life of lo sasuach ve'levavchem achrei einechem, so then mimela, the result of that is that he's going to come to a madrega of kanfei bigdayim, that he's lifted to another place. The b'chinas knafayim, wings, kanfei nishar. Come on, malachim l'srafim. I mentioned to two of the chaver that were just by Mechiras Chams. I mentioned to two of the chaver that I saw in a sefer Friday night. The Avis Yisrael from Vision is Chusi Yelena. He had a gabbai. His name is Mordechai Chona Fuchs. You remember Irving Yisrael Fuchs? Yeah. His Zayda was Mordechai Chona. He was a big tzaddik. He was a huge Aved Hashem. Irving's grandfather. His father was Zaycha to see here. He had Nerichs Yom, and the grandfather also was by the Havas Yisrael. Was a big Aved Hashem. So I saw in a sefer Friday night about this with Mordechai Chona that whenever people would talk about somebody else, even if it was Lataif, he automatically would fall asleep. The only conversations he ever had or took part in was to the person who he was talking to, never ever about somebody. He never ever spoke about people or allowed anybody to talk to him about other people. When that would happen, because he didn't have a control over it, when that would happen, he would go to sleep. So I said this at the table, and the old women started to say, "We went to sleep. What kind of things that? How did it fall? All the chakiris, the Jewish chakiris. I said, look, I don't know what that means to fall asleep, but he was able to leave that place and to go to an Alman Tovin, to go to a different world. And Tzaddikim could do such a thing. He was able to shut that out, to close that out. He didn't want to hear about anything else. Only the person you're talking to, that's the only one I'm talking to you, we're talking together. I'm not talking about Yanim, who's not here, nothing. Not about how great he is, not he's a tzaddik, he's a Kodesh, nothing. We're talking to and not about. So, that kind of, a person that is mindful of these things. We spoke a lot about the connection between Kedushas HaPeh, Kedushas HaEinayim, Kedushas HaBris. It's all one sugya of shmira. And that person lives in a different zone. He lives in a different world. He lives in a world that's good. Not in a dark, ugly, negative world. He lives in a world that's good. Alman Eloin, Alman Tovni Eloin. There's how I call such a thing. Alman Eloin, Tovni Eloin. A higher world to live in. That's what the tzaddikim live in, a higher world. That means confidence. Come on, Malachim L'Srafim. Void Harbe Yoisig of a Malach L'Srafim. But a Jew is on a higher madrega of Malach. Visim Kedoshim Le'Elokeichem. Kambur B'Tagim Yonishin Kedoshim Kamalachayim. See, this is, we're talking a lot about this in the Erev Shabbos Chaburah, the 6 o'clock Chaburah, and Chassidus, because we're doing the Maimer and Bayom Dakech on the avoid of Taivas, and so on. That there's the hardest thing, and the Alter Rebbe talks about this, and Tanya Yevul said he can talk about this, is that the hardest thing is when you're in a wrestling match. When you're in a wrestling match with the Taivas, with the Yetzirah, when you're fighting hand-to-hand combat with the other side, it's very hard. Yaakovino had such an injury, we can talk about in a minute about the Gideon Asher, that he was injured from that. Even Yaakovino walked away. He won, but he was hurt. It's very hard hand-to-hand combat. In other words, every single time that, this is the way we were taught, every single time that you see something to not to look, and not this, and not that. What we're learning here, this in the context of Kriya Shema, of Amunah, is that there's an avodah where a person ascends to a higher level, where these kind of things are not battles anymore. They're just not. It's not part of his world. He's not struggling with it. That's the most common word in every conversation nowadays, is challenge, struggle. Everybody's like, life has never been as easy as it is now. But you never heard so many times in every conversation, struggling and challenging. It's true. People feel that, milchama. Everything's a milchama. When the Zohar Kodesh says that a person, a malach, what does it mean a malach? It means that a person has the ability to move to a different place, a higher story. But these things are no longer a struggle. It's not a struggle. It's not a challenge. When there's a wrestling match and they're both heavyweights, or they're both from the same division or whatever, then it's but if they put in nothing and you're on a different madrega, so then it's not a struggle. That's what it means. Kamlach v'hisim kedoshim lo keichen. Kavu b'targim yonishim kedoshim kamalachai. Imeinayim nikiyos zoichel madregas malach. When the eyes are clean, when a person's related to suach ve'lach v'machreinechem, then zoichel madregas malach. When a person it's a different madrega. Madregas sorov. Advat hecher. Hakanafai miroimim es Yehudi mikol katnas v'hashiflus. A person who lives an internal life, a life of kriyishma, with the eyes that are covered. It doesn't mean walking with your head down. It means being able to be in control of one's eyes. So then, mimela, you're lifted to a place that's higher than all katnas, all smallness and shiftless. It's a different world. It's a different world. All we call katnas v'shiftlus. Zohar Kodesh says in Achar that B'derech HaTeva, when it comes especially, the Archam Kodesh is talking about the taiva of arayas, of that particular taiva of arayas. The Archam Kodesh says that B'derech HaTeva, a person really teva, you can't win. B'derech HaTeva, you can't win that struggle, that milchama. You see the whole world. B'derech HaTeva, you can't win that struggle. That milchama is of arayas is bitter and difficult, and even though you might win occasionally here or there, but overall it's very, very, very bitter. So the Chama Kodesh is talking about what it means v'yisim kedoshim l'lakechem. Means the only way that a person can succeed in that area is by going to a different place where you're above the fray. You're above. You're just not in the milchama. You're in a higher place. And that's when all the psukim that say, especially in the parashas of the coming up to Mitzvah and Vayikra, these parashas of Achar Kedoshim, we see that it's always be some Kedoshim l'lakayim, it's in Kedusha. So everything's Kedusha. Kedusha, that's what we're talking about. Kedusha means Alman Tov and Eloin, to move to a different place. Call kitness and shiftless. Memela, all kitness and shiftless is silly. Doesn't mean anything. It's not a mulchama. It's kitness and shiftless. This whole world is atzvus. It's filled with sadness. It's filled with merirus. B'chinas vayimaru es chayim. It's Erev Pesach. With all Mitzrayim, to be stuck in that small place. And when you're stuck in that small place, everything is vayimaru es chayim. There are people who have a nice life, but everything, they're always complaining. They have an iron rod. Everything's bad, and they have tinus against their parents, against their mechutanib, against their in-laws, against their kids, against their husband, against their wife. It's a whole life of vayimaru es chayim. Vayimaru es chayim. And every single thing they make a big deal about. Every klinikite is a whole big Indian. They're crazy about everything. It's a bitter life. It's the life of Mitzrayim. That's what it means to be an Eved in Mitzrayim. Every little thing is. From Yehuda Zoicha kommt a hecher Welt, olam achel legamrei. A person works on this, and again, he's not talking about becoming all of a sudden like the Baba Sali or something. So that this, people like ourselves can work on this to be able to move to a higher story. Doesn't mean a skyscraper, doesn't mean the top. To move to a higher place. And the ikar avodah that is, to start start being careful with one's eyes and one's mouth, and of course, Kedush Sabris. That's how you enter into a different world. Hashem Orli. Like Ki Aish b'chayshach. This world is chayshach, is dark. Hashem early. Oiz v'chedva b'mkaimai. And when you live in that other world is the world of the Baruch Shalom, and that place is a place that's filled with simcha. Oiz v'chedva b'mkaimai. V'esa'es chamal kanfei nisharim. Hashem says, I'll lift you up on eagle's wings. Va'avi'eschem elai. And I'll bring you to me. The Rasha in Haggadah, everything in his life is maha avodah zayis lechem. Everything is maha avodah zayis lechem. Everything is hard and bad, and everybody's bad, and always tinus and complaining and so on. A person can go Kenesha Yor Kinal Gazol of Yirache for the eagle. The person who wants to can live a life that's Tachas HaKnafayim Shlavinu Sheb'Shamayim. So with the mitzvah of Tzitzis, the Torah says that with the mitzvah of Tzitzis, you'll be able to remember. The opposite of remembering is what happened with Yaakov Avinu when he was fighting against the Sar Shel Esav, was they got clapped by the Gida Nosha, and the word Nosha means the Lashon of forgetting. Hahepach Migida Nosha. We can move over to the next page. Chazal HaKadoshim ki Gida Nosha Lashon Shikcha. Nishia, Nishaya, Menashe. This is a Nosha. It's a Lashon of forgetting. Lashon Shikcha. Shemashkiach has Adam Avodas Hashem. That's the Indian of that struggle with the Malach, with the Sar Shel Esav. The Tzitzis is the opposite. A kanfei bigdayim to go to a higher place where you're not injured by that Sar of Esav. You're not walking around your whole life limping from that milchama that you're having with Esav, because you're living with it in that world of Kedushas Einayim. Shemashkiach Zodam Avodas Hashem El Laman Tizkru Vasisim Es Kol Mitzvayisai. Laman Tizkru, to remember who you are and what your tachlis is in this world. Visa Chazal Kedoshim Shetchel is Doim Liyam. Talks a little bit more about Tzitzis on this page.
What page again? What page again?
Tes Zayin. You have it, right?
Yeah.
That's, you don't have Yud Zayin, right?
We have Yud.
You have Yud Zayin, okay, fine. So that's what it says about the mitzvah of Tzitzis. Shetcheles Doim Liyam. So we see that the mitzvah of Tzitzis is Loisa Suach V'Lavachem, Uscharta. So therefore, we have by Tzitzis the mitzvah of Tchelis, the blue of the Tzitzis. And the Tchelis is Doim Liyam. The Gemara says in Menachos that Tchelis is Doim Liyam. The Indian of the blue of the Tzitzis is that the blue reminds a person of the ocean. Liyam L'kisei HaKavod, and the ocean takes him to that higher world, to a different world of the Kisei HaKavod.
You say that's blue too, right?
I mean, we only know that mashal of the sky, that it's blue. I mean, it doesn't mean that the Kisei HaKavod has a color like a physical color, but our association with climbing above this world is the sky. That doesn't mean something physical. The Kisei HaKavod to a higher place. It's exactly what I was talking about this whole time. Almin Tavin Elohin, Almin Tavin Acherin means to go to a higher place, which we associate with the sky. It doesn't mean that God lives, the Kisei HaKavod is in the sky, but that's the mashal that we see throughout Tanakh. The ikar is that we see that the Indian of Tzitzis, this avoda of Tzitzis, of looking at things in the right way, tzitz, which means to see, and v'lois asur, that in the knafayim, the wings, take a person to the Kisei HaKavod. That's the destination. The Kisei HaKavod. B'chinas Shuv Yisrael ad Hashem lokech. Shuv Yisrael ad Hashem lokech. Ad is the same ayin dalet that we have by Shema Yisrael, the big ayin in the Torah of Shema, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, that we learned about, the big dalet, which is Eid, because this is the Eidus, you remember, Yaakov Avinu's sons, when they stood around his bed before he died, Kishem she'ein belubcha elecha, kach ein belibenu echad, Eidus. That a Jew is an Eid. Atam Eidai. And this is the Eidus. And the Eid, Shuv Yisrael ad Hashem L'Kacha, is the Ayin and the Dalet. The Ayin and the Dalet of Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Ayin v'Dalet which is the ayin, and daled stands for ayin, which is the eye, ayin, the eye, and the daled, which is dibur, speaking. Shema Yisrael Shema Keno Shema Chad. And a person could have that in mind. It could be a kavanah to have in mind by Kriyishma that the ayin and dal, that the way that I will be a kosher aid to bear testimony. Because Baruch Hu in this world, by being higher than this world, that I can say Eidus, that is through the ayin, the big ayin of Shema, and the big daled of Echad. That's ayin and dibur, the eye and the mouth speaking. She'emid karei tshuva. Of Shuv Yisrael ad Hashem Elokecha. Zeh kavana Shuv Yisrael ad Eid. Perish imasisa tshuva al inyanim shel ayin daled. That when a person does tshuva, when he works hard on these two inyanim of ayin, the eye, and daled, speech, dibur, ev shelagia, that is the weight, the knafayim, those are the wings that take a person Ad Hashem Elokecha. The Kisei HaKavod. That's the Indian Tzitzis, which is Darchei L'Yam, which is Darchei L'Kisei HaKavod. V'azoichel M'chaim Achayim L'Gamre. And that's a different life. And a person lives Chaim Achayim L'Gamre. It's an altogether different life. M'chinas Tzuroso Chakuka Tachas Kisei HaKavod. So in this world, Yaakov Avinu, which means us, Yaakov in this world is limping because he's hand-to-hand combat with Esav, with the Malach of Esav. In this world, Yaakov is limping. But Chazal tell us that the tzura of Yaakov Avinu is chakuka tachas kisei hakavod. That by Hashem's kisei hakavod, there's some whatever this. We're not talking about what it means on a deeper level, but the image of Yaakov Avinu is chakuka by kisei hakavod. Just like when Yosef HaTzadik was in the house of Potiphar, he saw the image of Yaakov Avinu. What does that mean? It means a lot of things, but it means that Yosef HaTzadik remembered who he was. Yosef is the union of Yosef HaTzadik is when Parnes HaShana is the Kedushas Einayim is Yosef HaTzadik. So when Yosef HaTzadik was confronted by that Metzias of the wife of Potiphar, that whole Nisan of the wife of Potiphar, he looked higher than this world. That means he looked up to the window. The window. The window means they looked up to Shemayim, right? He looked out the window. He looked beyond this world. He was looking for, because in this world, Yosef HaTzadik felt, I'm finished. I can't do this. Because in this world, you're going to lose. So Yosef HaTzadik, even Yosef HaTzadik, in this world, she was going to win. So what happened? So it says Yosef HaTzadik looked by the window. The window, was a window over there. It doesn't mean that he was looking a glass window. It means that Yosef HaTzadik Yosef HaTzadik knew that the only way to be Vayonas Vayetze, to get chutz out of this. The way to get out of this is to look out the window. And out the window means that this is not who I am. There's the Almini Loin, Alman Tovani Loin. There's Adasham Lakecha Shmir Sainaim. Alei Ayin, Yosef HaTzadik is Alei Ayin. Alei Ayin. Ben Paras, the beauty of Yosef HaTzadik is that Alei Ayin. Oilei Ayin. He had this way of looking at things. And then Mela, he was Vayonas Vayetze, and he wasn't part of the whole picture. He wasn't part of that. He wasn't in the Mulcham anymore. It's finished. Done. Vayonas Vayetze Achutz. Out. He's finished with it. Because that's what it means. Because in this world, Yaakov Avinu, but through the window, through the looking glass, beyond this world. So Yaakov, the image of Yaakov Avinu is chakuka tachas kisei hakavod. Is the image of Yaakov Avinu is chakuka tachas kisei hakavod. There's Yaakov Avinu, the same Yaakov Avinu of Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, and that's how he left the world. And gives a heb oif hecher to look higher. Reisamoisa uscharta. Reisamoisa uscharta beginners melech beyoifyo techazen heinecha, to see the beauty of the king. Melech beyoifyo techazen heinecha. Beginners zoiche v'roya pnei hashchina. All these lashons we find in Chazal. Zoiche v'roya pnei hashchina, to see the face of the Shechina. Lo hamitzvah b'aliyah l'regel. Sholosh pam b'shana yeroa yira. To see the face of the Shechina. It means to see through that window of Yaakov Avinu. It means to look at the world in a different way. I mean, to be oile regel. Zoiche v'nene miziv hashchina, to have this hana from the ziv hashchina. Olam chatir b'chayecha. So he said the bracha that they used to give each other, the chachamim. in this world, to live in another world. B'shas Torah, b'shas Tefillah, a different learning, a different davening. From hecha haya, nechnosem lo'olam acher, shemein olam haba. It's a different world. Mein olam haba. Kama she'naim nekiyas. And all of this, being able to live in that world, all of this depends. Kama she'naim nekiyas, on the kiyus einai. Again, the gedorim and halacha we're going to talk about afterwards. A few weeks we're going to talk about the gedorim and halacha, but the halachas of histaklis and so on. But the kiyus einai, as hakais nice or nepach lakais nice or, then the garment of skin that Adam and Chava wore as a result after the chait that Hashem made them this kais nice or. So everybody knows that in the Sefer Torah Rabbi Meir it says or with an aleph. It doesn't say or with an ayin, which means skin, which means this world, which means all that's low and ugly and dark. In the Sefer Torah of Rabbi Meir or, so it was written with an aleph, or whatever that means. But there's that life of Rabbi Meir was a life. Obviously, he had a kosher Sefer Torah, and the Sefer Torah was written properly, and it spelled or with an ayin. But when it says in the Sefer Torah of Rabbi Meir it was written with an aleph, his name wasn't even really Rabbi Meir. So when it says that it was written with an aleph, it means that he lived such a life. It was a different life. In the Sefer Torah of Rabbi Meir, it's written with an aleph. Rabbi Meir wasn't caught up in that Indian of the or with an ayin, of the skin, of this. It was a different world of or. B'zoichem lo'or hagonas. But tzitzis is in Lashon tzitzis roishi. There's another thing that tzitzis means. Tzitzis also means the curls of a person's hair. I mean, there are only a few of us have any left over here. But the hair of a person is also called tzitzis roish. Tzitzis roish. It's also called. It's similar to like the strings, right? So the hair. We find such a lashon in Chazal where a person is grabbed by the hair. He's grabbed and pulled by his hair. So this also is connected to what we're learning about tzitzis and losasuru, Kedusha Seinai, that a person that works hard on this sugya of Kedusha Seinai, the Baruch Shalom grabs him by his hair and pulls him to someplace better. He's pulled out of the ring, out of the room, to a different place. So you see mashgiach menach haloinus, that's the window that we were talking about before, with the face of Yaakov Avinu is in the window. And meitzis is a lashon of tzitzis, which means meitzis mashgiach, watching through the windows. Meitzis also is a lashon of looking carefully, menach harakim, through the cracks. Menemtzach harum mit the tzitzis, shein hamakifin, hashmir el yain. That we're taken, uplifted, and pulled out, and pulled higher, like grabbing somebody by the hair and pulling them up. We say some of these. Those who say the shemichud, the hirotzins, whatever you have printed in different sidurim, there's some different nuschos, but by tzitzis. The talus, the tzitzis is a makif. It protects, like the sukkah. Right? It protects. It surrounds. The talus surrounds the person. The beged, the lavush, is a makif. It's something which is a shmira. The tzitzis is a shmira. That's instead of the kais nice or. Instead of the kais nice or, which is the skin of the snake. Instead, a person wears tzitzis. That's the beged of a Jew. Is tzitzis. Is a talus. Because the tzitzis have the ability to protect a person. So the tzaddikim say that the talis has 4 corners, 4 kanfas. Shein ramzos. What's the remez of the 4 corners of the talis? Shein ramzos shalakol Yehudi b'chol matzav shel nefila v'yirida. The remez is, the Kodesh Magid says that the remez is that no matter where a Jew is in the world, no matter what he's going through, which is symbolized by the 4 kanfas, right? Which means arba kanfas aris, all over, wherever you are. Whatever you're going through, that's the arba kanfas. Ben beruchnias, ben begashmias, whether you're going through a yerida chalila in gashmias, or you're going through a yerida chalila in ruchnias. So there's a beginning arba kanfas. Arba kanfas means to be dispersed, to be broken. Because 4 is a number of separation, arba kanfas. Because there are 4 basic directions. So it means to be all over the place. All over the place. Arba ruches haaretz. Wherever a person is, whatever it is in life he's going through, that's what the Kodesh Magid says is the meaning of the arba kanfas. Wherever you are in life and whatever you're going through, you have your tzitzis on. Wherever you are, whatever you're going through, he has the ability, the koyach, on the tzitzis, which means kedushas naim lo sasuru. The person has the ability. It's not just a magic thing because you happen to wear a pair of tzitzis. You have to have the avodah of tzitzis. You have the ability of what? Just to be strong. To be strong in all of the matzav, wherever you are, whatever you're going through, arba kanfas haaretz. You have the ability to be strong. That there should be a shmira, and to jump on Hashem's wings, on the kanfa and the sharm, on the kanfas habeged, and to come back to Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, to come back to that nakuda, to remember. The meaning of tzitzis is Laman Tizkru, is to remember who you are. If Yosef HaTzadik would have fallen in with Aish's Potiphar, it would have meant that he forgot. He forgot who he was. He forgot that he is a Yid. When you and I fall, it means that we're forgetting that we forget that we're Jews. We forget who we are. The tzitzis is the avodah of kedushas einayim, and the kedushas einayim brings a person to a place of the opposite of gidanasha, which means to forget. It brings a person to Laman Tizkru. Mashgiach min hachalonos, to be able to look through the chaloin and to be able to see that image of Yaakov Avinu tachas Kisei HaKavod, which is the tchelis of the tzitzis with Kisei HaKavod. It's all one Indian. The whole Kriyishma is this avodah of kedushas einayim, of shmiras einayim. The list goes to beginners Makabes Nidchei Am Yisrael, and not only that, it has also the koach of Makabes Nidchei Am Yisrael. First of all, just to bring back all Jews to Eretz Yisrael. That's Makabes Nidchei Am Yisrael. But on a level of ruchnius, if I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing right now in life, that means I'm in Golus. It means that I'm away from Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim is that Sion. Yerushalayim, we've spoken this many times. That Sion, Yerushalayim is Yosef HaTzadik. Yosef HaTzadik is Sion. Yosef is not Sion. Yosef means Sion means I am the person I'm supposed to be. That's called Yerushalayim. That's called Sion. Golus is when I'm not the person I'm supposed to be. I'm somebody else. I'm acting out. That's somebody else. So I'm in Golus. So now we're talking about V'havienu l'shom me'arba kanfas haaretz, that the avodah of tzitzis, of kriyishma, of shmiras einayim, is Makabes Nidchei Am Yisrael. Because those who learn a little bit of Sram know that bracha is especially connected to the Inyan of Tikkun HaBris and Kedushas HaBris. Bracha Makabes Nidchei Am Yisrael. Because when a person is paigim in the bris, God forbid, when a person is paigim in bris milah, in Kedushas HaBris, so it means that there are parts of himself that are lo aleinu all over the place, without becoming more graphic than that. And parts of who he is are in Golus. Have been sent out into Golus because of Pagam Habris. Parts of who he is mamish are sent out into Golus because of Pagam Habris, because of Shechaz Levatala, the person is Mevatel. And what happens is that there's a Golus of himself. He's all over the place. So the bracha of Makabes Nidchei Am Yisrael, which is, that's why right before we say Kriya Shema, We say V'Havienu l'Shalom Me'abakan V'Yisaris, and then we say Shema Yisrael Shavakei Hashem Echad. Havienu l'Shalom Me'abakan V'Yisaris, to bring us back from that crazy place that we're all over the place. And that's what I'm looking at, what I'm talking about, and Mimela when it comes to Pagam Abris. So, Mekabes Nidchei Am Yisrael. It's the avoid of kibbutz galuyos, of coming back, of returning. Mekabes Nidchei Am Yisrael. L'sakin es kol ha'over, and a person can fix all of the mistakes of the past. All the tumor of his past. That they should have a kibbutz galuyos. Everything should come back. Everything should come back. Whatever was lost should come back. That's Mekabes Nidchei Am Yisrael. All the thoughts, all the words, all the looking, and all the programming of the bris, where everything is away from the person himself, from his home, from his family, but it's all over. So the avoid of Tzitzis, of Kedushas Einayim, is Mekabes Nidchei Am Yisrael. That's Va'av Yeschem Elai. That's then Kanfin Nisharm. That means to go to Eretz Yisrael. It means that we're physically in Galus, we're all over the place. And the person himself is all over the place. You could be like that when you're living in Eretz Yisrael too, you're all over the place. Mekabes Nidchei Am Yisrael is to come back to that Nakuda of Ani, of who I am, that we're learning about in the Ayaka Chaburah, of who I am, the emes, of who I am, and where I'm supposed to be, and what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. It's a different way of looking at things. Anytime that a person makes even the smallest effort to try to become better with this, Shmir Seinai. We try to make a strong gedarim, not to go to places, not to look at things you shouldn't look at, and so on. Even if in the past there was a nefila, there was a yerida. But nevertheless, a person has to try whatever you can in Kedushas Einayim, whatever you try to try to grab onto whatever you can. As he brings from Rabbi Tzadikim. Now, this is a very big yisod that we see in all the Soaring, explaining these words that we say in Shema of Lo Sasur Achrei Levavchem Achrei Nechem. Lo Sasur is now the word Lo Sasur in English they probably translate as not to stray or right. So, like Vayasuru as Eretz Canaan, like by the Meraglim, to go looking, spying, looking. That's a lesson of like in Eretz Yisrael they call tourists tayarim, right? Just to go to see. So that's a lesson of Lo Sasur Achrei Levavchem. But the Svarma Kodeshim tell us that it has another meaning, the word Lo Sasuru. Like we see in the Gemara, to be matir a kesher. What does it mean? To untie a knot. Right? That's to be matir a kesher. Which is a lotion of matir asurim, to free a prisoner, right? To untie. It's a very deep teaching from the tzaddikim. Just before we read the words, is like this: that there's this teva that a person has that he feels that, let's say, he's walking in the street, the weather's getting nice, and he walks in the street, and it's not everything is the way it's supposed to be when Mashiach comes, and a person looks at something he shouldn't look at. No, the teva of a person is that once he already did that day, the first time, then he doesn't try the next person that's following that girl. He doesn't try to look away from the next one. Why? Is this hafal? In other words, I'm already untied. It's hafal. So the Torah says, no. Just because you messed up with this one doesn't mean you're untied. There's such a teva. There's a famous story I've mentioned many times over the years where the Vilna Gaon was sitting with somebody. Somebody came to see the Vilna Gaon to ask him all kinds of questions. It was a maskeli. He wasn't a tzaddik at all. He was one of these people that wasn't keeping the mitzvahs the right way and so on. He was talking to the Vilna Gaon and something in learning. and the person had and the Vilna Rebbe brought him something to drink, and he started to drink, and the Goyen said to him, "You have to make a shahakal. What's the matter with you?" So the man said to the Vilna Rebbe, "I got much bigger problems than shahakal. Like you're worried about my shahakal. It's like that's the least of my inyanim." So the Vilna Goyen said to him, "When you're 120, there's going to be a cheshbon, and you're going to have to pay for that shahakal too. You think that that's already fulfilled, so you're on to more important, bigger and better things than missing a shahakal. And the shekilul shahakal is finished. It's not true. You're not untied. No Jew is untied. There's no mokum patur. There's no such thing. There's no such thing. Remember, I mentioned also in the past. I was sitting when I was in yeshiva. So the different divisions in when I was in YU, there were different divisions there. There still are. So I was in the yeshiva division. So we were eating together with some guys at the table, and there were two. There was myself and my chavrusa, and there was another nice guy that he was from the other division from the school. The other division where they were most weren't a lot of them were not so much careful with the mitzvahs. So not that we were tzaddikim, but they were signed up for that division. So we ate and we wanted to have a mezumah. So I said, "Could you help us with mezumah?" He said, "No, I'm in." He said the name of the part of the school he was in. He said, "No, I'm not in Rabbi Shulchan Aruch. I'm in the other part of the school." I said, "It says in Shulchan Aruch that whoever is part of that part in that division of the school is part from benching. What does that mean?" But he saw himself like, I'm not that type. I'm from a different type. There's no other types. There's only one type of a Jew. That's Shem Torah mitzvahs. And you're doing it or you're not doing it, but there's no patur. There's no. You're not off. There's no COVID over here or something. You're not off. You're on the program. You're not off. So that's what it means. Be very careful, because especially when it comes to these things of the heart, the eyes, typhus, a person's natural instinct is to feel and so on. To let himself just unravel, to get untied. I'm not tied up anymore. I'm not tied up. That's what he says, just very quickly. He's more about it, because it's the nature of a person that when he has an nisayin and he fails, he knows he wasn't watching himself, whatever. So now he did make a mistake, but now he wants to try to come back to himself. But the Yetzer says to him, "What? Come on, maybe tomorrow, but today it's already black crossed off." Then person extends that to the week and the month, and he has only one day, Yom Kippur. That's all these are left at the whole year. That today I'm not going to be nechshal. Every other day, it's like in the calendar, X. You looked at something, that's don't untie the knot. So he gives up. He says, Hayom, the Yetzer says, Hayom ata kvar loy meshumer. Today, the shmir is off. In other words, the door is off. You open the door. The door is open today. You open the door to me. The Yetzer lives. You open the door to me. Man, today it's already fulfilled. Careful not to listen to that. It's a whole avodah, which means whatever was. That's it. That was. I'm not arguing with you. I messed up. Whatever was. I have a cheshbon now. That was. That's finished. But I'm Anishoy Mesatsi Mikan Lahaba. The next thing is right now is Mikan Lahaba. I'm not untied. Lo Sasur Lo Matir Mesakesha. Lo Matir Mesakesha. Achrei Levavchem Achrei Nechem. I feel the matzah shel Achrei. Achrei Levavchem means after you already gave in to your desire and to the wrong thing that you looked at. Lo Sasur when Achrei. When is it likely to untie yourself? Achrei Levavchem after. After you already messed up with your desire, your heart, your taiva. Achrei nechem. You already looked at something. Be careful, because then there's a big Yetzar that says, let go. Let go. You're the same Jew. Nafalti, kamti. There's no such thing. Like there's a mesaktim is kol ha'over. It's a tremendous tikkun then. That's true. And you're able to bring b'makabes nitchayamis. You bring everybody back home. Everybody comes back into the house. You bring all the koiches, everything that was thrown away. Everything comes back. Moshe Weinberger, Vaber Chaim, the tzaddikim spoke a lot about this. And that's how we clean the past. That was. It's not now. I'm done with that. And then Yeshua says, you're done with it. Tomorrow, maybe now you can have a little bit, but tomorrow it's going to be the same. These are right now. This is where I am right now. I'm done. Finished. To have more koiches, new koiches,